Happy Wednesday. Hi, Jeff. Hi,
How's it going,
Rachel.
Rebecca?
Hi, Rachel. Nice to see you again this week.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Karen. And Carlos, I'm so glad you could join us today. Carlos, for anyone who's new, he's one of our HPF dads, and his daughter Katrina, who Jeff has met before, have been on our Living Autistically panel on our annual neuroscience conference. We love Katrina. She's so talented.
I had to unmute my mic here. I hope you can hear me. But hi,
We can hear
everybody.
Hi.
Cool.
Welcome.
Now I'm gonna go back to mute.
No worries. I saw other people waving. Thanks for joining us today. Awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. And just welcome everyone. Thanks for making the time. This is our 84th Lunch and Learn to date. I just can't believe we've been doing these ever since the pandemic started. It was an idea from our chairman of the board, Todd Hoff. He's also our co-founder, and we've just been doing it to keep everyone inspired and moving forward during the pandemic. So a couple Zoom rules for those of you who are new or haven't tuned in for a while. And for those of you at home, hello, who are watching in the future recording, a couple Zoom rules. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We recommend speaker view for presentation. Video sharing is optional, though we love to see all your smiling faces. And please type all questions or comments into the chat. I love to see people interacting in the chat. Please feel free to post anything and hello and have conversations. If you have any questions, we will have a Q&A at the end with our guest speaker that you can feel free to either unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat and I can read it off for you. So I'll be monitoring the chat during the Q&A. A quick update from Autism Tree. We have now have reached over 684,000 across all of our social media channels. We started tracking this 2 years ago when the pandemic first started, and we're so close to almost 700,000. It's amazing. And we've really been increasing our online presence because of the pandemic. And we've reached people all over the world. So it's such a blessing. It's one of the blessings that came out of all this. We have now posted 83 of these lunch and learns onto our YouTube channel. We record these each week and post them and use them as resources for our families every single week. If I have a new family who we have a different guest speaker each week. If there's a new family who wants to learn about a certain program and we have a lunch and learn where the program director did a presentation on their program, I'm going to send that to them. We have now over 200 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which I just love it. And we want to grow that as well. So feel free to share these lunch and learns. They're great resources for our families and the autism community as a whole. And since January of 2022, the beginning of this year, we've already coordinated 94 events for our families and our children and adults and teens. We have 50 more scheduled for the rest on our calendars as of today for the rest of the year. However, we always post more events month to month. So always check back to our website, event calendar, or our Facebook calendar to see what's coming up. It's free to register for any of our events. All you have to do is RSVP online. Right now, we offer 19 programs virtually that we do throughout the year. 9 of those are now back in person. So we are gradually getting back. I know this pandemic is still happening. People are still getting COVID. We're still taking precautions. We encourage people to stay home if they do get sick. But we are still, moving forward, and we're doing some more in-person programming to keep everyone practicing social communication skills for our families and just giving them a community. We now have over 460 videos on our YouTube channel. I mentioned that previously. We've posted 400 of those videos since March 12th. And that's all been our lunch and learns and we have several video playlists. I think we have 9 video playlists as resources for our families. And all of these amazing videos are usually like 1 to 5 minutes long, and they're submitted by our volunteers and our program directors and parents that shared tips and tricks of what they're doing, what works for them with their kids at home. And it's really been an incredible journey so far. So thanks to everyone. Special thanks to our Lunch and Learn sponsor, CalABLE. They are a financial savings and investment state program that helps you save money. Anyone whose disability occurred before the age of 26, so if you have a diagnosis of autism or another diagnoses before the age of 26, you're eligible to open a CalABLE account. You can visit their website, calable.ca.gov. They are also doing a 2-part Lunch and Learn series, or Lunch and Learn workshops, next week and the week after, July 6th and July 13th, where they'll be answering any of your questions about CalABLE and what it is and how you can open one up, or any questions that you might have about it. So you can register for that and sign up online. They just launched their 2022 CalABLE Ambassador Series. This is a cute video series on their YouTube channel where they feature different parents who have people with autism or have a son or daughter with autism, and they speak about how they've used CalABLE to help their family. So you can view these. We'll include these in the recap email that we send after this Lunch and Learn to everybody who registered and to everyone in ATPF's emailing list. You can get a link to these videos, or you can check out their YouTube channel. So Dana Hoff is our co-founder and volunteer executive director. She was so sad to miss today. She had an important meeting come up. So I will be introducing Adrian Rodriguez, who is this today's Lunch and Learn guest speaker. Adrian and his family founded the Legend Gaming Center out of Chula Vista just recently in this past year. And Adrian, I have a little slide that I put together of photos of, we're so grateful for this new community partnership. And we had Adrian's mother, Andrea, who is pictured here on the left-hand side. In May, Lupe and I got to meet Andrea in person, but Andrea, I think, reached out that month and just reached out to us organically and gave us a call and said, I just opened this gaming center with my family, and I'd love to have your families come to our gaming center and do an event for your families for free. And it was just a blessing from the universe because we were looking for more opportunities to do in-person programming, and especially for our South Bay, our families in South Bay. So it's been wonderful. We actually did host a first event with them, a teen time event for our teens. We have over 250 teens in our database and who are, always looking to get out and do fun things. So we just hosted a gaming party just a few weeks ago on June 21st. You can see some of our games, or our kids playing games. And there's Adrian and then Lupe. And it was just a really overall fun time for our families and our group. So with that being said, I also want to share that Dana and I are working every day on always opening new doors for our families. We are celebrating our 20th year anniversary next year, 2023. ATPF was founded in 2003 by Dana and Todd, and we have raised a generation of children already who are now young adults, and we are focusing on how we can continue to support them in living their best lives, whether that means going to college or getting a career, or even just moving and living independently or moving into a home. So Autism Tree was really built on a pay it forward model. And that is what we're getting back to and what we're saying every single day. is it started with, one professionals and other parents helping Dana, and she helped another family, and they helped another family. And we built this organically, we built this community of parents and volunteers and community partners who all support each other. So all of our 19 programs and 200 plus annual events are provided at no cost to our families, that's only made possible by our volunteers and our community partners. And one thing that our community partners all have in common is they're inspired to make a difference. They embrace our families with love and acceptance, and they open new doors for our families. So this amazing new community partnership with Legend Gaming Center and Adrian and Andrea, their whole family, happened so organically, and so there was so much alignment immediately, an immediate connection with them. And so thank you. I want to thank Adrian for taking the time to educate us on a topic that is of very much interest to a lot of our families in the autism community. And so Adrian, feel free to take the floor.
Yeah, like you kind of gave a little background. We opened in October, and it's cool. And since then, we've kind of just been having we have tournaments for like different games every like weekly, and that's where a lot of people get together, and they'll like even like all types of people we wouldn't like you wouldn't expect. They would just go and they would interact, and that's how like a few years ago before we opened, I was introduced to the scene because it was just the game that I would play with my friends, and I was like, oh, let's look up a tournament, and we looked it up, and we ended up going, and this is like 3 years ago, and a lot of these people I'm still friends with, like I still talk to them, and I think it's really cool for people that normally don't get to interact with other people outside of that, because then they'll make friends there, and then after they'll be like, oh, let's go get food, and they'll end up hanging out elsewhere too. So it's a pretty cool community of people that we got. Besides that, I wanted to talk about like as for video games, there's a lot of like obviously there's a bunch of different kinds of games, and one thing that's really cool for people on the spectrum specifically is that it helps with different skills like problem solving, or there's times where like inevitably you're gonna lose in a video game. So it's like it teaches in the sense like how to deal with the frustration of handling those losses over and over again, because it's impossible to play a lot of these games without eventually going through it. And I've also read that it's called another type of game that's pretty popular, even though that we don't have, is like exercise video games. Like I don't know if you've seen like the Wii, and those are pretty popular. Those are cool. I think one of the best parts is when we had that, I think it was Team Time, I think it was called.
Yes, our
Team Time. Yeah, when we had that, it was really cool to see people that or especially the moms, when they come up to us and say like they haven't, like my kid didn't want to go to any of the other events, but this one they weren't forced to interact, but they were right next to people doing similar activities, so they got to even if it wasn't like direct interactions, they were more like next, like associating with things that they both have in common.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, do you have any questions for?
Yeah, I mean, why don't we start by you telling us a little about you. I'm so glad we had the pre-call where we talked with Lupe, our program coordinator, and you mentioned that you're 20 years old, right? And your family started this business. It's pretty new for you, just last year. Andrea, your mom told me that it was you and your father who had the inspiration to start this. So why don't you tell us why, what that came from, like the story of how that came about?
Yeah, so like I said, I joined one of the tournaments like several years ago, and my dad did something that me and my dad like bond over. Like we'll play all the time, so it's a cool thing. We ended up going to a tournament in Temecula like a few years ago, this is during like a little bit after COVID, like when things started opening up again. And when we were there, it was a pretty big center. And my dad that's where my dad basically got the idea. He's like, there's nothing like this in San Diego. So that's from then, or like from there in the next few months, we spent planning it out basically to find a location and all the stuff we need for it.
So what is your role now at the Legend Gaming Center?
Right now we're trying to, my role is I'm the one that's like there pretty much every day because both my parents are working like their other full-time jobs. So I'm there every day, and I run the tournaments, and I'm trying to expand like on social media and trying to expand like to find more people basically.
That's fun. And do you know how many gaming centers there are in San Diego?
I think there's only 2, but the only other one is a lot smaller.
Mhm.
So we're the only one that like has like space to run tournaments like that.
So what tournaments, tell us about the tournaments that you run.
Yeah, so the biggest one is one for Smash Bros, the Nintendo, the Wii game. And that's the one where we have like our main community. Like we get like 30 or 40 people a week for that, and it's always the same people. So it's really cool to see there because that's where, like I mentioned, we have all kinds of people there. And a lot of them are people that wouldn't be able to interact with other people because like either they're older and they don't, they have their jobs, but that's where they have their sense of community. And a lot of these people are like really like they're friends with my parents, like because my parents will go to the tournaments too, and they interact with them, and it's a very good group of people that like, they're very fun to be around.
Yeah. What is the age range of the people who come by your center?
It's pretty wide. It's well, not wide, but it's like I would say for the tournaments, it's from like we have like a 14-year-old little kid that's like a prodigy who does really well, and like the best player is like a 30-year-old. So it's pretty funny it's very wide. Like we have it's like the weirdest, most diverse. Like it's very diverse group of people in terms of age, race, and everything.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And how many people with autism? Like, why autism? Why don't you tell us?
Yeah.
Who you guys
Well, I think it's very difficult for a lot of them to interact with people outside of video games because that's just the common interest they have. Like, so there's a few that have been going since the beginning, and it's really cool to see now they're able to interact with more people, and they're when they're recognized and become more familiar with people, they just naturally are more open to doing whatever things that they might have had difficulties with in the past, like in terms of socializing. And a lot of them are like, there's one specifically in mind that like was I remember would be very, I don't say like hogging, people bring their own setups, like their own games. And at the beginning, he would be very hogging of his own like thing. Like he would kind of be off in his own, like just sitting in the corner. But now he's like, people will go up to him and he'll go up to people asking if he wants to play, if they want to play with him. So it's very cool to see like a growth in that sense.
That's awesome. How old was he, would you say?
I don't know his exact age. I think he's a little older though. I think he's like 22, 23.
Okay. So you have a lot of young adults.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have a lot of kids, and who, especially during the pandemic, that's been one of the ways that our kids have been coping, is finding online communities, playing games online. And now, post-pandemic, a lot of our parents, I think a lot of our parents fear that their kid isn't socializing enough, and they view gaming as more of like an obstacle. Like they fear that their child will spend more time online than actually in person. But we also want to be able to embrace what brings our kids joy. And I think gaming has definitely brought joy to a lot of our kids, but also allow them to like get outside of their comfort zones and grow. And that means, doing face-to-face meetings, and community gatherings. So what are some of the ways in which you've seen gamers connect offline and in person? You've mentioned these tournaments, and tell us more about the scale as well, of these tournaments, when and where they happen, and like how do you get plugged in?
Yeah, a lot of them will find it through like Facebook groups, or they'll just Google like tournaments in my area, and they'll just show up, because there's a lot. I think what's really cool is that there's no like judging of other players. You know, you just kind of go in because they're going for the same thing. Like they're just going to have fun.
Yeah.
As for the tournaments, we have them every week. Well, we actually have them twice a week. So it's a lot of like familiarity within the people, because you're seeing a lot of people go twice a week. So
Wow.
you're seeing a lot of like people that interact every single week. And as of like the offline thing, there a lot of them will actually go hang out after the tournament. Like they'll go, oh, let's go to Applebee's. They're in the corner. Or they'll just do like, they become friends outside of it. Like they'll host their own, like outside of the tournaments, they'll have sessions where they just play amongst themselves for like several hours on end. So they interact outside of them as well.
Yeah, and that's just with at Legend Gaming Center, right? You host those twice a week.
Yeah, for
Are
that
they
game.
particular just for that game, for Super Smash Bros?
Oh, we've had other tournaments, but that's definitely been the biggest one, where that's the most, where there's the most sense of community, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The other games seem to be more individualized. Like they'll go play and then leave.
Yeah. And do you have like any like prizes for like the top gamers, or is it just bragging rights?
No, so the way the tournaments work is it's you pay for a venue fee, and then it's $10 for the venue fee, and then $5 goes to the pot. So the first place will end up taking like half the pot. It's usually the same like 2-3 people though that win every time.
That's cool. And what is kind of like the global scale of it too? I know Andreas told us, I think when we first met, Lupe, feel free to jump in if you have a better memory of this than I do. But one of the benefits was that there was this gamer who was gaming online, and they had met and they lived in different countries. I think one's in Canada and one was in LA or something. And they decided to meet in San Diego at Legend Gaming Center. And so, which I think is amazing. So how many of, people at Legend Gaming Center like have come in that you know of that like are from different countries, or
that'll happen. People are like, it's very common that people will visit from their hometown, like wherever they're from. They're visiting San Diego and they just look up a gaming center because it's like they don't have their setup. So they'll go, and then a lot of times it's very common that we have like groups of people, like they'll go with their friend group of like, and they'll rent out 5 spots in the back, and they'll just stay there from when we open till we close, and they'll go get food in between. They'll leave, and they're just there the whole day. But yeah, it's very common that people are. We also get a lot of people from the military that don't have their gaming setups too, and they'll go and they'll just stay the whole day playing with their friends there. I think even though like gaming can be done at home with their own setups, I think part of the appeal is being able to have like very high-end setups next to their friends. So like they're able to do what they enjoy along with doing it alongside like their best friends,
Yeah. What's the breakdown of the gaming consoles that you have?
We have mostly gaming computers, but for the tournaments I was mentioning earlier, they're all on the Nintendo Switch. So we have like 30 gaming computers, and then we have 2 Xboxes and 2 PS5s.
That's awesome. And one thing that I had to learn that your mom taught me is that usually everybody has their own account. Is that true? Like a gaming account that they...
Yeah, we have I have a few guest accounts, but most people will have their own, like, because a lot of the games will save their progress within it. And so they'll just log in and they're able to get all their stuff.
Great. That's awesome. Well, I'll open it up to anybody who wants to ask questions to Adrian about anything that they do, or anything you want to share. Maybe you know somebody who, maybe your son or daughter plays games. And okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Adrian, so I'm listening to this. So I'm listening, and I'm thinking to myself, have you ever considered maybe doing like a Madden NFL tournament at some point? Because I know they're really popular because Madden NFL is really popular with a lot of video gamers, particularly those on the spectrum, and they could and because people can use their imagination, they can pretend they're a specific team, and they could and they could it'd be kind of like the playoffs, if you will. You could make up your own postseason for that kind of benefit. So
We've had a FIFA tournaments for the soccer game, and I'm open to having a Madden tournament. Might be something to consider in the future. That sounds good.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Jeff. I love it. Carlos, go ahead.
Hi, I was just going to mention that this gaming thing, I think I love my own gaming, but it's I like me versus the computer. But I think for some kids, I think it seems like a great environment for them to develop social skills in a way that is inviting to them. So one of the troubles with with my daughter is you just don't put her someplace and say, okay, socialize. She didn't do that. Now, mind you, my daughter has zero interest in gaming, but I'm saying for some kids, if they're in their enclosed environment and their environment includes gaming, then this is a great way for those kinds of kids to get out and learn and develop social skills. I can imagine that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about it. It's a very natural way to for them to introduce to themselves to other people. It's something that they willingly do. There's no forced interactions. Like if somebody wants to not interact with anybody, they're free to do that. But eventually they end up interacting anyways. It's a very natural thing there.
Yeah, that's excellent work from that standpoint. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Carlos, for sharing that. I mean, yeah, you're totally right. There's so many, like I said, there's so many kids that have gamed, and I think a lot of them game together online. So to provide a space for them to do it in person I'm amazed that there aren't more spaces like that in San Diego. And this is a global community, right, Adrian?
Yeah, there's people from all over that'll interact.
Mhm.
I think even though there is some kind of connection that you could form with people online, I think seeing people in person, it kind of more solidifies that.
Mhm. Definitely. And what are your favorite games, Adrian?
Me personally,
Mhm.
I actually play in the Smash tournaments as well, because I'm already there, so I'll enter them too. So I think that's my favorite game right now.
Awesome. I love it. Janice. Hi, Janice. She says, my son loves to play Minecraft and it helps him with his social skills.
Oh yeah, I like that game too, because it's basically like an open world, and you're able to play with other people and basically do whatever they want. Like I think it's like computer Legos. Like you can build whatever you want, and so that game's really cool.
I've never thought of it that way. I like that, computer Legos. That's awesome, Janice. Thanks for sharing. Any other parents? Hi, Joy. You have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hi. So I think this is a great idea. I have a son that's 7 who actually loves gaming. Would that be too young to bring him? He loves Super Smash Brothers. That's his new thing.
We've had people bring their kids that are like 5 years old. So it's a very welcoming community. Like you could just go and play. Like any people would be willing to play with. So I don't think so.
Okay, great. I'll learn to play it too. Maybe I'll bring him.
Yeah.
Great.
That's how me and my dad have been bonding recently. Like we'll just play for a long time then.
Yeah, and that's a great idea. Then he can meet other people and can practice his skills.
Yeah.
Great.
I love having, I'm so glad you said that, Joy, of how like you want to practice with your kid. Like
Yeah.
that's amazing to have like it's a bonding for the parents too. I think a lot of parents might be like hesitant and to do it, but I love that attitude. I think Janice, did you have your hand raised? Did you want to share anything?
I was gonna ask, let's say like my son, his name is Alex, goes into your space. Would it be okay if he brought his own device because that gives him a little bit of comfort having his own stuff? Or is that like where he can just tap onto Wi-Fi and play with others, or does it have to be on your gaming system?
Yeah, he could bring his own. We've had people bring like entire like very big computers and they just want to use our internet and hang out with their friends there. So like, yeah, of course, people could bring their own devices.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I know they have a really great space in Chula Vista. It's very cool. And they have like, you know, you have some tables that they can just hang out and eat at. There's like a snack machine and then all the computer games and then more consoles in the back. So there's plenty of room, right?
Yeah.
For everyone. That's great. Yeah, we definitely want to continue this and we're going to do more events with you guys. And I think we'll open it to all ages because we have so many younger kids too who game. I love that. Anyone else want to say anything to Adrian? Rachel, I would love for, no pressure, but I'd love for you to say something to Adrian. Rachel is actually one of our interns and she goes to Cal State Fullerton. And I'm curious about what your experience, if you have any, Rachel, with the gaming world, or if you have any questions for Adrian.
Actually, I'm from South Korea, and gaming center is like a really big culture in South Korea. And it's actually called PC room in South Korea, and PC room is everywhere. And it's like a really big culture. So a lot of like elementary school kids and middle school and high schoolers, they all like, especially guys, boys, they gather together and then they go to the PC rooms together and then play games and socialize. So that's like one of the best ways they socialize with each other, and they just build their friendship through like playing games together. And I was really surprised to see like gaming center in San Diego, because in this area, like where I am right now, Orange County, there's a lot of Korean people. So like I've seen some gaming centers as well, but yeah, it's like, I think it's really growing these days. So yeah, I think it's really amazing to see that you opened up a gaming center. And I have one question. Can you recommend some of the best computer games for kids to practice socializing with?
Yeah, I think like they were mentioning earlier in the chat, Minecraft is definitely one of those because you're able to play by yourself if you want, or there's a lot of like very big servers where people can play with other people there. And it's very, I've never played World of Warcraft or seen it, but I think I've seen multiple people play it. I think that is a good one as well because you're able to interact with people on that one too. So I would definitely say Minecraft is one of the best ones for that.
That's awesome. What are your thoughts on Fortnite as well? I've heard a lot of kids play that one because it's free.
Yeah, Fortnite. I've seen like that's probably our most popular game right now. They think that one's really cool too because you're able to like a lot of times people play with their groups of 4, and they'll just play for like hours on end. I think that one's really good too because there's like communication needed in that game. There's different skills. Like you definitely need to communicate in that one in order to succeed.
That's awesome. Thanks, Rachel, for such a great question and for sharing all that about South Korea. I had no idea. That's really amazing. It's just more proof that it's something some people in the other countries in the world are doing it. It can work for our community too. What about since we're so close to the border, Adrian, do you have any concept of what the gaming community looks like in Mexico or nearby or in other countries?
I know in like TJ specifically, it's kind of a funny coincidence, but for some reason, those are like the best players in the world for the Smash Bros are from TJ. Like I'm not sure why, but it like so we'll have a lot of them. Like sometimes they'll come up and they'll just win the tournament. Like because we're so close to the board. I think we're like 15 minutes away from TJ.
Oh,
I'm not too sure about like the other scenes there, but I know that like that for that specific game, it's like massive.
that is so cool. Wow. And how old are these tournament like top players in the world? Like how old are they?
But the second best player in the world right now is from TJ, and he's 15. So it's like unheard of. Like it's kind of insane. But I'd say the average age is like for the top players is like 20-ish.
Wow. That's amazing.
Mm.
And how long have you been playing games, Adrian?
Me, since I was probably about like I would play video games with my dad since I was like 5 years old. Like for as long as I can remember, like I would be playing. And
this can be a family bonding activity.
yeah, for sure. Like it's also like during when COVID first hit and everything was closed down. That's how I got closer with my cousins too, because we would just play games at the start of it. And I think we played Fortnite a lot, and that was like our form of bonding without being able to interact for the first few months of COVID.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any thoughts on Twitch as well? I'm curious.
Which,
Twitch like the streaming service for video games?
yeah, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of like YouTube, but it's like live. I do know there are certain like streamers that have their community of people, but I don't know too much about Twitch, honestly, outside of that.
Okay. I know we had I'll have to introduce you to one of our teens. His name is Brett Horner, and he really loves Twitch. And so he actually did a Twitch live stream for us one time, and he was playing games. So I think he would be really interested in meeting you.
That'd be cool.
So, great. Well, I think does anybody have any other questions? No? Awesome. Karen, thanks. Karen's so sweet. She put in the chat, this is so exciting. What a great business. Thank you for sharing. I think, and Jeff, I love all your ideas of all the different games. I think we can definitely, I wonder if we could do like a hybrid event somehow with like having people on Zoom and play games online at the same time, having them at the center. Do you know if that?
I think so. I think there's ways to screen share or like communicate, kind of like live streaming within. I think that's possible. That sounds possible. Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that because I think it'd be fun. Jeff, if we did that, would you come?
Sure. I mean, I'm not much of a gamer, but yeah, I mean, I can, stop into taking the activities. So
awesome. You have some parents on social media who follow you who are trying to get their.
Yes, I have one mother from the Tampa area that has a son on the spectrum who plays a lot of Minecraft, and she's trying to get him to be more social via Minecraft. So
yeah, I love that. You should invite her to come to. Yeah, we'll have to I will do a virtual. We'll have to figure that out and sidebar on that, Adrian.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, that's so cool. And I also wanted to share with everyone, this is actually a little bit of history with Autism Tree. We do an annual neuroscience conference every year that's free for parents and anyone to attend. The goal was to connect the neuroscience community, the top researchers of autism, pediatrics, and neuroscience with our families and create a connection between them. And sometimes these researchers maybe they study autism or they study the brain, but they've never actually met a person with autism before. So this conference is an opportunity for them to meet each other and get direct feedback on their studies and all of that. In the past, we have had a professor named Leanne Chukowski. She's a professor at the University of California, San Diego at UCSD. And she is also the founder of the Pong Center, which stands for Power of Neurogaming Center. And they basically develop research-based video games for adults on the autism spectrum. So she's worked with one of, several of our HPF young adults, one of being John Hickey, who's our program director for the University of San Diego mentor programs. His son Lawson has been working with Dr. Chukowski for a long time and helped advise on and build those games. And they create earlier intervention specifically for attention. So a type of attention, and I can share this, like, I just did a little bit of research on her just because I wanted to share this with everyone on this call because it's totally relevant. There's this like 2-minute video that I can share with you guys, but she says there's a type of attention called orienting, which means making fast and accurate shifts in attention. So, which is something that 80% of people with autism have challenges with, apparently. And she says so they practice direct and fast eye movements they create these games that help them practice direct and fast eye movements, which improves their attention, which improves their ability to communicate, and that is the skill that we need to build, right? So I think if it's okay with you, Adrian, I'd like to include maybe some of your work or some of her work in the recap email. We send a recap email after this Lunch and Learn every Friday, that has the link to this recording. And it also has like resources that are for our community to learn more about gaming and such. So would you be open to including that as well?
Yeah, of course. That sounds like an interesting video.
Yeah. And do you have any resources or anything that you think might be valuable for any of these parents or our families on how they can get more involved in the gaming community? Anything?
I don't have any like exact. I was reading some articles before this talked about the benefits of gaming. I could link that. I don't have it on me exactly. I'd have to look it up again, but I could link that because there's like a long list of research studies talking about how the benefits of gaming and socialization with people on the spectrum. Well, people in general, but especially on the spectrum.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what about like you mentioned they have like Facebook groups, and are there any like websites or?
Yeah, most games have like I don't know if you've heard of Discord, but it's like it's like kind of like the modern like chat, like group chat. Like people make big group chats basically. I think Discord's one of the more popular things today for different communities. So finding Discord servers with communities is definitely one of the biggest ways to communicate with different people in that community, in specific communities.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. We'll include a link to that too.
Yeah.
Well, this was amazing. I love how everyone was able to share something about their experience, and I think it resonates with a lot of people. So Adrian, thank you for coming and talking about
No, thank you for having me.
I'd love to take a group picture of everyone before we go. It's tradition, so if you'd like to turn on your cameras, we welcome it. And yeah, most everybody. Awesome. I'll do a countdown. Ready? 1, 2, 3, big smiles. Cheese. Awesome. Well, thanks again, and we'll post this on Friday, but thanks again for everyone for joining. It was so nice to see everyone.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for, have a nice day.
We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Thank you. It was interesting having some of this. Thank you.
Yeah, it was nice to finally meet you, Janice. I know we emailed or texted before. Awesome. Take care.
Bye.
All right, I'm gonna stop.